Okay, time to introduce our guest. The Chief of Strategy at Naivas, Andreas Von Paleske, is our guest. Andreas, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
We call that the hot seat of the situation. Really. How does it feel?
Relaxed so far. We'll see how it goes.
Very good. The person who was there before you was the chair of Kenya Power Company. Of course, you know, those ones, they generate heat. But, you know, she had a good time. City is going to welcome you with the day's proverb. Every week, City goes to one African country. He picks proverbs from that country, and then he gives us the proverb. Your job, Andreas, is to listen to the proverb and then give us your interpretation of it.
Great.
Okay, City, go.
Yes, our proverbs for this week come from the country of Benin, the Republic of Benin. Has a population of 13 million people. 1-3. Okay?
13 million.
1-3.
Wow.
Yes. Those are many people. Country's not that big. They have a president called Patrice Talon. The VP is called Miriam Chabi Talata. Okay? The proverb for the day. When night falls, grass turns to people.
When night falls, grass turns to people.
Grass turns to people.
Yes.
That's a very interesting proverb. Quite cryptic, I would say.
Yes, it is.
What do you think it means? Night falls, grass turns to people.
Gosh, I'm struggling with that one, I'll be honest. Grass turns to people.
Help.
Let me tell you this. An interpretation of a proverb, you cannot possibly be wrong. Because you'll be telling us how you resonate with it. That's it.
Well, what I would say is when night falls, it gets dark, of course. You know, things become very quiet. And you know, things tune down, things relax. Things calm down from the busy times during the day when there's a lot of activity, when there's a lot of noise. So maybe it's a proverb that indicates some reflection of what's happened during the day. You know, to take stock of the busyness during the day, and you know, to calm things down.
Yes, spot on. And I tell me at night, how good is one's vision at night?
Very poor.
Precisely. So images can appear to be what they're not.
Yes.
Yes.
Very interesting.
If you think about it strategically, then there are things that may appear that this is the way to go, but it may not be. There may be booby traps, or they may actually just be innocent things that appear to be booby traps.
And someone who works in strategy would know this better than most people, because you will know that appearances, as we say simply, can be deceptive.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I think in retail, the business that I work in,
yes,
it's a daily sales business. You know, it moves very fast. So one day you could be king of the hill, right on top, and the next day things could be very, very different. So our business is very much a daily and hourly sales business. So you're absolutely right. Sometimes things can be very deceiving, and you have to be on your feet and respond very quickly to changes in the market, to changes in customer habits.
How long have you been the Chief of Strategy at Naivas?
So I've been with Naivas for 7 years. And during that time, of course, we've seen the business evolve significantly, both from a strategy perspective, but more broadly speaking in terms of what we've done in the market. Kenya has changed a lot during that time period, and we as a business have changed significantly during that time period.
Tell us a little history. History is good. What did you start as, and how did you grow?
So Naivas started all the way back in 1990. Founded by the Mukua family, so the business has been around for 34 years, much longer than I've been with the business, of course. And during that business, during that time period, the Kenyan retail landscape has changed a lot, and Naivas has changed a lot as a business. But I think the one thing that's always been the true North Star for us, that's kept us honest as a business, is our focus on the customer. When the Mukua family set out in 1990 with subsequently the strapline Naivas saves you money, I think we've always tried to stay true to that, be very humble and very customer focused as a business.
So we know that Naivas has branches across the country, 100 plus. Is it, or is it still 100? I remember us celebrating the 100th Kikwetu.
103 as of tomorrow.
103 as of tomorrow. That's many. What does it take to actually run those very many branches?
It's a very good question. A lot of effort, a lot of daily effort. Let me start though with 100 branches, because I think everybody looks at that and says, "Wow, 100 branches." I think in Swahili you might say tumefika. We've arrived as a business, but for us as a business, it's actually always been around how do we serve the customer better, and how do we ensure that we have a sustainable business, to ensure that our employees get paid, to ensure that our suppliers, our landlords get paid, and to ensure that we fund our expansion from our own resources, to stay true to what we do. You ask how we manage the business. We have almost 12,000 staff. So that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people every day in our branches that need to be managed, to make sure that the shelves are replenished, to make sure the right goods are ordered, to make sure that the customer service is there for people working in. That takes a lot of training of the staff, and that takes a lot of daily management in our stores, in our central warehouse, in our head office, to ensure that that runs smoothly. As a customer, you don't see that. As a customer, you walk in, you want to be greeted, you want to be well served, but you can imagine underneath the water, the legs are moving very fast to ensure that we can deliver on that promise.
What is it that you would say is central to your success and your expansion? Because you can't have 100 plus branches and not call that success. Yes.
I think it's actually something that impressed me when I first came across the business. I think the founding family and our shareholders who've joined us on this journey subsequently have always been focused on good governance, on making sure that we manage the operations well, that we don't stretch ourselves too much. So it's not about do we open 10 or 15 or 5 branches. It's around, can we afford to do that? Are those branches profitable? Can we ensure to pay our way through that? And I think that conservative approach to expansion and to running our business is what made us successful at 30 branches and has made us successful at 100 and beyond.
When you look at branches and you look at the business and you look at the growth, what does the future look like?
I think the future for retail in Kenya is bright.
Yeah.
If you, and I hope you're both regular shoppers with us, but if you walk through our stores, I talked about the strapline Naivas saves you money, but of course it goes beyond that. We look to offer a value for money proposition to our customers, whether that's the quality of our fruit and vegetables or the price of cooking oil and what have you. That ambience that we offer customers in our stores, the quality of what we sell. You're a loyalty card member. You're one of our 3.5 million loyalty card holders. Thank you. I think that's what brings people into our stores. And when we offer such a proposition, and if you think about modern trade in this market, so supermarkets like Naivas make up about 20% or so of the market, there's a lot of room still to grow. And I think the proposition that we have will keep bringing people into our stores.
If you look at that evolution of this retail space, it started with just the small dukas and then moving into what were then called self-service stores and then growing to supermarkets, Uchumi coming in and driving this conversation, getting into bigger and bigger stores. And now we seem to be moving from the bigger and bigger stores to back to smaller and smaller stores. Specialty brands coming in and setting up, us guys are only selling electronics. Someone else coming and we're only doing groceries, and somebody else. It appears to be shifting. Where do you see it heading from this point?
I think that was my point right at the beginning. Retail is constantly changing. You're only as good as your last transaction, as your last sale that you've made. If you look at the evolution of Naivas, when I first joined the business, vegetables was something that was in a corner somewhere. People really went to Mama Mboga to buy vegetables. They didn't really come to the supermarket, certainly not with us. If you walk into our stores now, those items are front and center, both in terms of quality and in terms of price. So there's a constant evolution that's happening in the market. Most of our business is still your core food products, your daily, weekly shop. So things like electronics, clothing, etc. have always been a smaller part of our business, but they're a very important part of our business. So I think it's less around, will there be a specialty retailer offering those products? It's really, can we as a business continue to serve the customer well? So if we have a strong proposition that says you buy a fridge from us, it's a good price. When something happens to that fridge, we are here to take care of you. Then I think we will continue to win in that space. And that's, I think, the daily battle that we have to face to ensure that we continue to serve the customer well and deliver on our promise.
Then you're competing against somebody else whose cost of operation is lower. and maybe you have a high cost of operation. For you, you want to be in a certain location. That location attracts a higher rent. You want to be running as a big business. Then you're attracting all these, regulators and your licenses and business permits, and you've got to run a business fairly. And then there's somebody else that you're competing with, the other 80% of the market, that is largely informal. How do you grow this share of the retail market from 20% to make sure that more and more people are now coming into this formal retail business?
One of my learnings has been Kenyan customers are very demanding. Very demanding in terms of the service they expect, in terms of the quality they expect. Rightly so. That, of course, makes it a hard business to operate in because you have to be on your feet constantly. I think the way that we win in that space and that we continue to grow that share is really by delivering to a demanding customer. Of course, our scale means that sometimes we can offer products at a better price. And price is very important in the market. The ambience of your shopping experience when you walk into one of our stores, of course, is different. So it's a bit more experiential. The look and the feel. We try and make it a more exciting shopping experience. And those elements added together are what I think excites people to come and shop with us.
This 102 coming to 103 branches tomorrow, they're across the country. What informs where you move to next?
So we spend a lot of time researching where we open our stores. I think you asked me earlier, the success of getting to 100. That's very much predicated on making sure the stores we open are successful and they are profitable. Because only if we ensure that can we continue to grow. So we spend a lot of time researching areas, whether it's an area in Nairobi or whether it's an area in a different city or town in Kenya, to assess, is the demand there for our proposition? And once we've done that, we've looked at the demographics, we've looked at the population, we've looked at who else might be operating in that market, we then take a view and say, yeah, that location works for us. We think we can do well here.
The subject of competition when it comes to retailing is always an interesting one. And I'm going to tell you why I'm saying it's interesting. Because people who are in your line of business are competing for more or less the same customers. Or am I wrong? Or do you compete for different clientele? And if so, how do you determine the clientele that you're hoping, whose needs you're hoping to meet?
Good question. We look to serve all Kenyans as Naivas. So we don't say, there's a customer here that we're looking to serve and we won't serve this customer. I think what's important for us is that we address the entire spectrum in the market, all demographics. People of all sorts of backgrounds. That's really important to us. One, that makes our business bigger because it allows us to address a larger market. But we want to make sure whether we have a store in Karen or whether we have a store in Eastlands, that we are relevant for that customer. So we try and take a very broad approach. Now, of course, some products may work in one store, they might not work in a different store. And so we look to focus our assortment a little bit. But if you look at our advertising, if you look at our strategy in terms of products, really we're looking to serve all Kenyans. And that's very important to us. No matter what store you walk into, no matter what income you have, you should feel comfortable shopping with Naivas.
One of the things that I noticed when there was someone who would have been a competitor of Naivas but isn't there, beyond just shopping for groceries and what we consider regular shopping, they went a step further. They'd probably have a floor where you could buy... what word am I looking for? You could buy nails. You could buy hardware. You could
home
buy
furniture.
A mattress. You could buy toys. You could buy. But I guess for you to have that line of business, it means you think there's a demand for it. Or is it that if someone enters the shop, you very rarely end up buying the one thing that took you there? Depends on what else you come across. And even if you don't buy it then, you might want to buy it in the future if you know it exists. Now, in terms of expanding what it is that's available, what plans do you have? Because there is no supermarket that has literally everything. Like, I want to buy a car, but it's not going to be available in a supermarket. So how do you ensure that the customer experience also introduces them to something that isn't quite there in plenty, but is something they could always look forward to?
The question is always, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? Because, of course, there will always be one customer who is missing a particular item who comes to your store and says, I wish you sold this. So we're very guided by what our customers want. We are also, as you rightly say, guided by, well, if you came in to buy a loaf of bread, maybe we can sell you a packet of milk or a packet of sugar. So, of course, we try and ensure that we serve you in terms of your needs and, of course, try and sell you additional products. That's absolutely the business we're in. The challenge in retail is to know where to draw the line, because, of course, for every additional space, for every additional product we offer, we have to pay more rent. We have to employ more people to serve that space. And if that space isn't generating enough sales, then that area may no longer be profitable for us. So it's a daily discussion we have at our head office. You know, what products should we be in? Should we be moving out of some products? It's very much guided by customer trends and what customers want. And of course then guided by, well, do we think we could try something in this area? Maybe we can tempt customers to come in and shop this area. So we're constantly exploring and evaluating and testing different products, different services to see where the demand might lie. Getting that balance can be difficult, and I think that's one of the core things we have to ensure as a business is, again, managing our profitability, but serving our customers well to ensure that somebody doesn't open up next door to us and give a better customer proposition.
You mentioned research. When you want to understand customer satisfaction, you want to understand customer needs, you want to project all this, you mentioned the word research. How detailed is this research and how frequent is it?
So very frequent. I would argue one of the biggest pieces of research actually we have is our till sales. You know, if you looked at 2023, we had 87 million individual transactions. And, you know, customers vote with their feet. If they, you know, you can quickly track a customer, customers no longer shop with you. That's your biggest piece of insight. You know, if your sales go down in a particular category for a particular product, again, that's a significant piece of insight. So that's actual data. You know, that data doesn't lie. Those are customers, they're shopping with you or they're not shopping with you. But beyond that, we have an insights team. We have a very good insights team that regularly goes out into the market. That could be interviewing people who've just shopped with us. That could be interviewing people in the street and asking them various questions around what their habits are, what their preferences might be. You know, why Naivas, why a different brand? And then we collate that and we use that research and our own data to inform decisions we make. And as you asked earlier, that might be where we should open a store, or that might be around pricing, or that might be around what products and services we should offer.
Please profile for us, from based on this research, an ordinary average Kenyan shopper, all right? What determines where they shop? What influences what they're buying? What influences what time they buy? What influences how much they spend?
So, you know, we're living in very difficult economic times currently. I think a lot of people are struggling. If you look at our average transaction, it's about 1,200 shillings of people coming in. But of course, that's a very broad spread.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are spending 200, 300, 400 shillings with us. The key thing that informs people shopping with us, the everyday customer, will very much be driven around, of course, accessibility. Is the store convenient for me? Can I reach it quickly and without much hassle? Will I be served well? But let's be honest, right now, price is very important to the customer. So the customer needs to know when they come to us that they will get a very good value for money proposition that will keep some shillings in their pocket. And I think that's one of the areas that we spend a lot of time working on and trying to understand is how can we do that better to ensure that we can retain and attract those customers.
So what do you need to do to make sure that then you actually meet the customer at their price point?
It's around assortment. So, for example, one of the trends that we've seen during these harder economic times is people are buying smaller packet sizes. They can't afford maybe to buy the 5-litre cooking oil. They might buy a 3, 2 or 1-litre cooking oil. So it's to ensure that we have the product available, the right product, the right package size. But of course, when it comes to price, we have to work very hard every day to ensure that in our operations, the way that we source the products and ensuring we can cover our cost base, we can give the customer that price. You know, there's no point us coming up with a ridiculous price, but then we're out of business in 3 months' time. So we have to make sure that we get that balance right. And as I said earlier, that's a daily battle for us to try and win in that market. I think the other trend that you see very clearly is end-month shopping is very important in this market. So you asked me what time of day, what day of the week. What I would say is end month is really important, and ensuring that you serve the customer well at end month when people have some money in their pocket is really critical.
Has end month changed over years? For many, sometimes it used to be the 25th of the month. You'd find many people, public servants. Has it changed? Has it moved to the 5th of the next month?
I think, for us, the end month really starts on the 31st, first of the subsequent month. First, second. So if you take the weekend that's coming up, that's a good month-end weekend to focus on. People have definitely been paid at that point in time, and they'll definitely be going out, shopping and buying provisions for their families for the subsequent month.
Okay. Our guest this morning is Andreas Von Paleske. He is the Chief of Strategy at Naivas. We are talking about the strategy for Naivas Beyond 100. Tomorrow they are opening the 103rd branch countrywide. We call them Kikwetu. It's those branches across the country and what they do, how are they, tailored towards the customers in that particular region. 103 of them, that's not a small thing. It's the first retailer in the country to hit that number, the first retailer in the region to actually hit that number. No mean feat. We'll be talking about that shortly. Naivas Supermarket is also the one that had 87 million transactions in all of 2023. That means that many people went once, twice, thrice. Many people went in to buy in all these stores. 102 stores presently. Tomorrow, 103rd store goes live. It means something. It means that people are going to shop because they need the essentials. But what Andreas Von Paleske is telling us, he's the Chief of Strategy, is that they've got to understand the customer. And one of the things that you're seeing with the customer now is tough economic times. That means the basket size is reducing, average 1,200 per shopping. That also means that you have to also work with the customer. Reduce the sizes so that then the customer can then buy the size that they can afford, but also work on the pricing. Working on pricing is not just a thing that you do by yourself. You have to talk to your suppliers because these are goods that you're selling that have been produced by somebody else. What are you doing? How are you dealing with the suppliers? And then also maybe your landlords and others to keep your costs low so that then you can transfer that benefit to us customers.
It has to be a partnership. We have to work in a partnership because our business and our suppliers' businesses and our landlords have to be in a sustainable operation. So we can't look at it from a one-sided perspective and say we need to negotiate tougher and get a better price in isolation of a longer-term partnership. And that's what's really important to us as a business. Of course, ultimately, what holds us true is our customers. Our customers are coming to us or they're not coming to us. And if they're coming to us, the price has got to be right. But we have to ensure that we work in a professional manner. We, of course, negotiate hard, but we have to ensure that we work in a sustainable manner with all of our stakeholders to ensure that we're not just here today, tomorrow, but for the subsequent years.
The retention of customers, especially in the face of competition, because if I look at my understanding of supermarkets from a historical perspective, never in the history of this country have we had so many supermarkets in the country. But also of interest, entrance into the supermarket space from supermarket chains that are not local, like this one is. So it tells us that there is business to be had. However, that you're opening branches and that their customer tells you that those who shop at Naivas are happy with what they're getting. Otherwise, then they wouldn't come back. They would have stopped coming. The question Eric asked, I want to dovetail on it. You have this ecosystem and you have what you call the supplier. Not just the person whom you see who supplies you, but the person who produces it. It is a discussion we've had in this country for a long time, whether we're talking about cash crops like coffee or tea. They always seem to get the short end of the stick when it comes to any business. How do you ensure that the good governance principles that you spoke of is ensured when dealing with them? Because some of them are small-scale business people.
I think if we step back and we look at the future growth of Kenya, small and medium-sized enterprises are very important to the growth. And I think they are very important to us as a business. It's always a battle, is a business big enough to supply us? Because, yes, you have small businesses, but you also need to have a certain scale to be able to supply a business that's got 103 stores. So, of course, in some cases, that might be small-scale farmers, but they might only be supplying a few branches in a particular area. In some cases, that's a bigger business that's supplying us countrywide. I think we as a business are very sensitive to the needs of our suppliers and in terms of how they manage their business. I think we try and genuinely, and I mean this when I say it, create partnerships with our suppliers. But of course, from our operations perspective, we also need to ensure that the suppliers we deal with can serve us continuously, because we need to ensure that we have the product on the shelf every day, not just one day here and the next day it's not there. So it's a constant evolution, is what I would say. What I would say looking forward, though, and I think this is something that's very important to the business and to me, is we do want to work more closely with smaller suppliers, up-and-coming businesses, not just to have them as business partners, but actually also to undertake training. Because I think a lot of people want to supply you as a supermarket, but the reality is, do they understand what it takes in terms of their own capabilities, in terms of whether that's governance, whether that's their supply chain. And I think a place where we as a business can play a much bigger role, and I'm very excited that we will be doing that, is, as I say, not just to onboard different suppliers, but actually to train small-scale suppliers in terms of what it takes. And I think that's where we can play a big role in helping those businesses grow. Because if you think about the broader macroeconomic growth, if we can help those smaller suppliers grow, employ more people, become more professional, become sustainable, ultimately we will win as a retail business, because we will have better suppliers supplying us, but of course we will have a much bigger impact in the economy.
So how will you do that? How will you raise the capacity of the small-scale suppliers? In
partnership. So the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, for example, is very keen to partner with us to develop that with some of their members. We can't do this on our own, but what we can certainly do is reach out through other umbrella organizations. Of course, we have many suppliers coming to approach us, but we need to make sure we do it in a manner that is achievable. We can't do it one-on-one, but I think in partnership with umbrella organizations, we can absolutely reach out to a broader set of suppliers and share with them our experiences, and of course learn also what's happening on the ground in terms of up-and-coming suppliers, in terms of new products, etc., being launched.
Juakali associations and such would also fall into this, would it?
I think you have to. I agree. We wouldn't draw the line anywhere. I think what's important for us is, again, I keep coming back to it, is, are we serving the customer well? Do we have on the shelf what the customer wants? Because otherwise they'll go somewhere else. But I think, as part of that, we are constantly innovating and trying to understand, are there new products that we should launch? There might be a more niche organic proposition, for example, whatever it may be. And ensuring that we develop that, even if they can't supply us today, maybe in 2 or 3 years' time they could. So I think that's a very important role that we can play. You asked me about research earlier, because of course we can also play back to those organizations, to those individuals, to the entrepreneurs. And Kenya is a very entrepreneurial country. What customers want. We have a very rich database that we can also share with those individuals to guide them in terms of perhaps what they should be doing.
Many of the complaints that we've heard from many suppliers into supermarket chains is the power play. The supermarket chain operates like it has more power and more leverage, and then the supplier is the small person in this equation. And they feel that they sometimes get bullied or shortchanged into the relationship that they have. One, the supermarket will dictate the payment terms. The supermarket will dictate the credit period. The supermarket will keep changing the quality standards without notice. So this time you're supplying this and you said, I want your mangoes to come in green. And then next time I'm bringing the green mangoes and you say, no, we want our mangoes yellow from tomorrow. And I already have been sourcing for the green mango. So how do you make sure that you create a sort of a balanced relationship between you and your critical stakeholder who's a supplier?
I used the word partnership earlier, and I think for us it is genuinely a partnership. We don't dictate terms as a business. Of course, we have needs as a business, whether that's the product, whether that's a particular price point that customers demand of us. But these are always negotiations with our suppliers to ensure that we get to the right point. Of course, many people want to trade with us because we're large. Equally, we rely on a lot of those products. It's not a one-sided relationship. We, of course, need to have those products on the shelf. I'm not sure we change the color of the mangoes. I think what's important for us is, do we have those mangoes on the shelf every day so that the customer coming to shop with us has that availability? That's really important, for us. of course, we're on a journey. We want to get better as a business. As part of that, we have to involve our suppliers. And it's not just a price discussion, it's a continuous discussion that ultimately always comes back to the customer. But I'd like to think that from a Naivas perspective, we are very professional in how we interact with suppliers, that we negotiate, I think, on fair terms to ensure that we can deliver on our price promise.
How do you ensure quality? And here I'm talking about just the food business, because you've gone big on food, whether it's fresh vegetables, whether it's a fresh meat or meat, whether fresh milk. How do you ensure quality and traceability of the same to the source?
So in those categories, of course, when you come and shop in our butchery, for example, if you come and shop in our fruit and veg department, and I'd really encourage you to do that, to see the quality of what we have on offer. But when you buy those products are Naivas products to you. It doesn't have some other supplier's name on it. Of course, a farmer has grown that product. Of course, that cow has come from somewhere. But when you buy those products, those are Naivas products. Which, of course, means that we have to ensure when you take those products home and you cook them or you eat them, that they are safe for consumption and that you are happy with the quality of what you're being offered. So actually, in those areas of our stores, we take that quality point even more seriously. One, of course, it's a bigger risk area, but also because it's our brand that people are walking out of the stores with. And so we undertake regular food safety audits in all of our stores to ensure that day in, day out, not just from receiving when, of course, we inspect the quality, but also in terms of our product handling, in terms of the cold chain, that we are managing those products to ensure that we deliver a very good quality to our customers.
A couple of years ago, I think 1 or 2 years ago, so there was the development of a standard of quality for fresh foods. And if I remember correctly, the big retailers are also part of the development of this product, of this safety standard. Is it still in effect? And how does it go backwards to the farmer, to the supplier?
I think, candidly, there's more that could be done to standardize, and maybe also for different business to cooperate on that front. We don't look at that quality from an industry perspective. We look at it from a would I buy this product perspective. Would I bring this product home to my family? That's the litmus test for us. That's the standard that we hold ourselves true to ensure that, well, if we would, then of course our customers would.
One of the things, though, that from my point of view stands out when one goes shopping, not just at Naivas but as a supermarket, is the customer care. How you're approached. If you seem to be lingering over some stall, somebody comes and asks if you can be assisted.
Yes.
But more importantly, also telling you, well, beyond this, we can also offer you this and this and this. Does Naivas have a specific training that they offer the people who work within them? And how do you standardize them, and how do you ensure that that quality of customer care is maintained throughout your outlet, so that when I go to this supermarket, it is the same. If I go to another one, it is the same?
It's to ensure that standardization across is challenging, is what I would say. To answer your question, yes, we do offer training. In fact, I think as a business, I'll come back to your customer service point, but I think as a business, from an employee perspective, what we are very focused on is not just creating jobs, but is creating careers. So that if you join the business as a shelf stocker, for example, you have the opportunity to progress from that. So it's not just that you are well trained in that particular role. So yes, we do. We have customer service weeks. We invest a lot in the training of our staff. But actually what's even more important to me is that we allow people to progress from those roles, because I think that's when we can have a very big impact in society. But equally, of course, our business benefits. If we bring great people into the business, we train them up. That ultimately allows us to progress, to have better trained, better talent in our stores, to allow us to continuously evolve as a business and better serve the customer. So training as a broader topic is very important to us, not just on customer service, which of course is critical, but across the board.
Consumer associations are important. They have a place even in the constitution in this country. How do you engage with consumer associations? How do you make sure that as you are dealing with your customers and everybody else, that you are able to then address concerns that emanate immediately from customers, either directly and maybe even linking up with consumer associations to help in training consumers, and to help in creating more awareness to consumers on how to even do shopping?
I think before you even get to consumer associations, I think I said earlier, Kenyan customers are very demanding. I think in this country, whether it's over social media or other forms, if a customer is unhappy with the service that they've gotten or the product they've gotten, they let you know very quickly.
Yep.
I would argue much more so than in many other markets, which I find really interesting. So for us, it's not just engaging with consumer associations, where of course we have dialogues with all sorts of umbrella organizations regularly. You know, we get feedback from them, we have discussions with them, but it's making sure our fingers on the pulse with the customer. Because they might go through a consumer association, but they might also come directly to us, or just go on X or various other platforms and let people know what they felt about the service, good or bad. So that broader, I think, interaction with the customer is really critical to our business.
Are you finding that Kenyans are becoming more and more aware of health? In other markets where they want to go to an organic store because it sells organic stuff, or they want to enter into this supermarket and there's a corner that sells purely organic and advertised and packed as organic. Is that a trend that's happening in Kenya, or is it going to come?
I think health focus, absolutely. I mean, that's been a trend that's been going on for a while, and I think there is an increasing awareness around various aspects, and diet is, of course, an important contributor to that. So very much so, and we see that in our business. I think on organic, I mean, one has to be careful because different definitions are used in different markets. What I would say is actually the quality of produce that's grown locally is of a very high standard, and so I think in many ways that organic aspect has already been dealt with. But equally, we can't forget pricing. It's all very well to say, this chicken's been reared in certain conditions, or this particular tomato's been grown in certain conditions. That's great, but if I can't afford to pay for that to feed my family, that becomes a problem. So for us, I think it comes back again to quality and ensuring that we offer customers a very high quality, but a value for money proposition. That's really important to us.
Naivas is a high generator of waste, I'm sure. Many of the things that will be found in your store at some point will end up as waste. What's the strategy for waste management?
So we track waste very closely in our business because, of course, waste is a cost to our business. Any item that we might buy that we can't sell, that impacts our bottom line. So we try and track that very, very closely to ensure that in terms of how we order products, right? We try and order enough so that there's availability on the shelf, but not so much so that we have to throw half of it away. So it's, as with many things in our business, and that's one particular aspect, it's around the close management and tracking of those areas to ensure that we can manage it. We'll never get it down to zero, but of course, we look to manage that particular cost as best we can.
And when something has become waste, what do you do with it? You have to dispose it.
When something is no longer fit for consumption, for human consumption, we have to dispose it. And I think it's right that we do, and I think it's important that we do it properly because, of course, there's always a risk. If you don't do it properly, it finds its way back into the food chain. And so we're very, very focused on that because that is a danger to customers who might ultimately come across it. So we take that particular aspect very seriously. There is, of course, a topic around, well, an item might no longer be sellable to customers or customers don't want to buy that item, but it's still safe for consumption. I would say there is an opportunity for us and other businesses in the market to do more on that front, and we haven't cracked that yet.
Have you cracked the loyalty card? Would you say your loyalty card is a lot more attractive than other loyalty cards, so that when I, being an individual who has one such loyalty card, would feel that it is in my interest to shop more at Naivas because the reward I get from this is infinitely better? And the research you've done, has it shown you that if the loyalty card is attractive, then it then acts as an incentive for someone to actually come and shop with you more?
So our loyalty card is very, very popular. With around 3.5 million loyalty members, we have a very large loyalty card. When you look at spending patterns, our loyalty card customers spend more than customers who don't have a loyalty card. So it tells you something about maybe the loyalty and the affinity that we've created with those individuals. And when you look at the redemptions that you can get in terms of the points that you've earned and where you can spend it, again, it's a very popular scheme with our customers. Over time, we will do more. I think it is watch this space over the next 12 months or so. There is more that we would like to do with our loyalty card to reward customers who come and shop with us. But certainly, currently, if we look at the numbers, we think it's a pretty popular scheme.
Loyalty is it's a global thing.
It is.
All airlines, supermarkets, whoever, they'll have this sort of a loyalty program. Safaricom has one. We keep talking about it all the time, right? But what is it about the loyalty? I mean, what's the strategy for creating a loyalty program? What's actually the goal? Is it to just keep enticing me that, if you shop here, you'll get to 20 points, accumulate those points, and one day we will tell you how you can redeem them?
Firstly, you can redeem your points at any time, which is very important to our customers. Look, I think first of all, what we have to get right as a business, we have to make sure we have a proposition that brings people to our stores. A loyalty scheme is not really worth very much unless people have something to come to our stores with. But the idea behind the loyalty scheme really is to say, well, if you're coming to shop with us, let's reward you so that on future purchases, on future shopping trips, you can get some money off. So it's really building that two-way relationship between ourselves and our customers, saying, well, you're already coming to our stores. There's obviously something that we are getting right to bring you here. Of course, we would like you to keep coming back to us. And here is a reward to entice you to come back to us. That's effectively a reward on top of the everyday pricing. You don't have to have a loyalty card to purchase products in our stores. Of course, everybody has access to that pricing. This is really something on top to say, thank you for shopping with us. Please come back.
Every time I go shopping, I realize that it's actually a fairly interesting experience, even if I don't want to buy very much. I get to familiarize myself with things ordinarily I wouldn't familiarize myself with. Now, again, research and how it is. You mentioned it in passing, but I want you to go into a little more details. What is the thinking about the layout that you have in your stores? Because my experience is that it's important. There's something about it that makes you want to simply even just walk around it and see.
Very important.
Maybe they hide the critical items. They know you like milk. So put milk on this end, put bread on that end.
So you have no choice but to walk across.
To navigate the store. There is some of that. But if you look at a Naivas food market today, and I think both of you have been to those stores.
Yes.
Our format, the way that the ambience that we look to create, the look and the feel, starting for example with fruit and veg at the entrance to the store, is very different to a Naivas 5, 6, 7 years ago. And there is a method behind that. There's a reason we're doing that. Is we want to make the experience more experiential. We want the customer to really have a bit of a fun experience as they're shopping, because of course doing your weekly and monthly grocery shopping can be a mundane experience. It's not always that exciting. I think everybody has more exciting things that they'd like to do, but it's really one to of course demonstrate the quality of what we have. So when we're showing you great tomatoes or great sukuma wiki at the entrance, that's giving you an image of what we as a business stand for. But it's also to make the experience a bit more exciting, to make it fun. And of course, ideally, to get you to pick up a few more items in your basket.
Somebody's asking, what measures do you have in place to help SMEs, that's the small traders, get a listing on Naivas? What's the onboarding process?
So reach out to us. We have a portal where you can register as a supplier. And we have an email address, and I'd like to think that we respond to queries in a timely manner. But you asked me the question earlier also, what more can we do? We want to do more to help SMEs. That isn't just around listing, as I was saying earlier. That is also around, well, actually, what does it take to supply a retailer? But to answer the question that's being asked explicitly, reach out to us, tell us what you have. I think one of the key things, I think on this program, I've spoken a lot about customer focus, because of course the customer is what holds us true. I can come up with very interesting strategies, but if the customer doesn't shop those strategies with us, that's for the bin. I would push the same thing to anybody who wants to supply us. Have a really strong proposition as to why customers want to buy your product. Is it just another Me Too product, or actually does it have something different that Kenyans might really want? And bringing that out as you pitch to us, I think that's what's really important, because ultimately that helps us do our job better, because we keep coming back to the customer.
Okay.
Somebody asked one question. We are actually coming to the end of the hour. Food bank.
Yep.
Collaborating with the county governments where you're in to create food banks for those who are clean.
Is that an idea that you have?
That's an idea that we have, and I think that's something that we can and should do more of. You asked me the question about waste earlier. I think it goes to the same point.
Yep.
Do we have products that there's two different aspects to it. Can we do more to help the community? Yes, we have a lot of CSR outreach programs as a business, but specifically, is there an opportunity to utilize products that are still safe for consumption, but maybe our customers don't want, and collaborate with government and NGOs? Absolutely, and I'd like to take that forward.
Thank you. Andreas Von Paleske, thank you very much for joining us. Andreas is the Chief of Strategy at Naivas. He's been our guest talking about the strategy beyond the 100.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.